And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, and we're excited to welcome back relationship expert and author Chris A. Matthews. We've had a great time with him in this series talking about his books like Finding a Relationship Fix. You guys see it there. But also now, last week, we introduced another component of Chris's work he's been able to do through relationship counseling tools, and that being his workbooks. Chris, welcome back to the program, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, glad to do it. We're going to dive into more of the workbooks today, but I want to do a little bit of housekeeping for our audience and let them know. If you're joining us new on Amazon Live, we welcome you all to the broadcast. You will notice there is a follow button either in this corner or down below. Feel free to be able to give us a follow to stay connected with all of our programming we do here 7 days a week on Amazon.com. Also, you'll notice Chris's books that we're talking about are all below in the carousel or on the side if you're watching us on your phone or your tablet. So as we're talking about them, you can actually tap on the books, be able to see more information about it yourself, and purchase your own copy without even leaving the broadcast. So the broadcast will keep going. It'll open up in a new tab for you, but definitely invite you guys to be able to do that. So Chris, before we get into the workbooks today, I want to talk about this experience for you with relationship counseling tools. Talk to our audience about what it's been like for you, man, to be able to provide tools and resources for couples to help them find success in their marriage.
So a lot of couples and individuals come to counseling, and one of the biggest things that I hear is that they'll divulge a lot of information, the counselor will listen, but they're not leaving and walking away with tools. So the books and the workbooks are designed to give those relationship partners actual tangible things they can do and information you can process with your partner. And that's been overwhelming. The feedback's been awesome. A lot of people are excited to take the therapy home with them. And these tools are great resources if you're in therapy and you're wanting to go beyond just that hour with the person in front of you.
And Chris, that goes to a big point that I think, and that's why I said when we first started this series, and it's really been great talking with you about your books like Finding Your Relationship Fix and also your other books and now your workbooks, is that I think a lot of times people in general, right, we expect someone else to fix stuff. I'm
Right.
bringing this to you, so fix it. you know, do you think the hardest part is individuals in the relationship realizing their own work they have to do in order for it to work?
You're exactly right. Your own work is similar to what you would do if you go to a personal trainer or a nutritionist. And I
Mm,
use that metaphor a lot because if you are trying to lose weight or have a healthy lifestyle, no one can control what goes into your mouth but you. No one can control what type of physical activity you do with you. The same in relationships. No one can
yeah.
control if you're going to fight with your partner in a negative way and shoot below the belt and say things that they've shared with you that are hurtful. So at the end of the day, a relationship maintenance plan and the tools are no good if you're not going to choose to use them.
Such a great point. Now, if you guys have been following us in this series with Chris, what we've been doing, we started out talking about his books like Finding Your Relationship Fix. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it there in the carousel there on the Amazon Live side. He also has an ebook as well that we discussed when we first started our segment there, 6 tips for finding your relationship fix there. And so now what we'd like to do is kind of get into the workbooks. We started this, Chris, last week and going through some of the workbooks. So before we get into that, if people missed it last week, talk to them about your company, Relationship Counseling Tools, and exactly the services it offers.
So relationship counseling tools is a platform that provides individuals coaching, counseling, and the focus is on relationships. So all of the counselors with relationship counseling tools, including myself, are licensed marriage and family therapists. And we want to go above and beyond just in-person services and offer an opportunity for clients to obtain workbooks and materials that they can apply at home. We also have online courses, which are great because if you're in a rural area or there are not a lot of counselors available, you can log on to the website and purchase the online courses that have videos, lifetime access as well when you purchase the courses, and then also retreats. So it's really comprehensive when it comes to providing people with materials that they can apply at home and opportunities for you to attend retreats to gain the information. And the goal is just to make accessibility easy when it comes to relationship management and development.
Yeah, and that's the great thing. So I want to do a quick rundown, Chris. We actually covered three of the workbooks last week in introducing them to our audience, and I'm going to be highlighting them in the carousel as we go through here. The first one that you all will see if you're joining us on the Amazon Live side, we appreciate you guys being over there. You'll notice it is maintaining safety, how to guarantee your partner feels safe, and we actually talked about that one a bit last week there. You can get that one right now for $20.61. The next one there is expressing care. Get that one. How to guarantee your partner feels loved. That one is $15.89 there on Amazon. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it there in the carousel. The next one that you guys will see there in the carousel is making their voice count. That one is $24.99. How to guarantee your partner feels heard. You all see it there. And today we're going to be talking about this one. And Chris, I think this is going to be, a powerful one. Finding acceptance, how to guarantee your partner feels understood. So before we dive into this one, we didn't talk about this one last week. This one is $18.34. So guys, as we're talking, if you're on the Amazon Live side, feel free to browse through the workbook, see which ones fit you and your current circumstances. Hey, David on the Amazon, I'm sorry, on the Facebook side says, such an important topic. David, I could not agree with you more, man. Thank you so much for being with us, David. But I want to talk about this one, Chris, and also tie in how the workbooks came along. Now, we started our conversations, our series, talking about finding your relationship fix, the 4 reasons couples seek counseling. Talk to us about how the workbooks came along and how you decided what topics you wanted to cover.
So the workbooks are identical in the book when it comes to the topics, but the workbooks bring the book to life. I had a lot of feedback from readers. They said the book is great, but they wanted to find out ways to apply the skills in their marriage and in their relationships. So that's how we birthed the workbooks. And after conducting thousands of hours of couples counseling, accruing degrees, also being married myself for 13 years with my partner for 16 years, and looking at research, I came to the conclusion based on all this information, there are really only 4 reasons that couples seek counseling, and it's based on 4 feelings. So those feelings are safety, feeling heard, understood, and cared for. So that's how I derived to develop the books and the book and the workbooks, because at the end of the day, all the issues, when you think about finances, parenting, whatever the issue may be, it's going to align with one of those 4 feelings, and helping people realize that it's beyond just fixing a specific issue. It's more about fixing the entire system.
Yeah, and I think that's it. And what I appreciate myself, Chris, and I think and we've talked about this. I think these work really well for individuals who are thinking about dating and looking for a partner, may be dating and headed towards marriage, and not just those who are married. And we kind of briefly talked about this, but let's brush this really quick. When do you suggest couples start having these conversations, Chris?
Day one. And day one, on the first date, and I don't mean divulging private information. You want to warm up to a person and develop a level of trust before you start providing intimate details. But on day one, there need to be certain conversations around, hey, do you even see yourself getting married? Because what would it be? Wouldn't it be a waste of time if you're looking for a partner to eventually marry? Or a big one is kids. If you're with a person on the first date and they have no desire to get married, no desire to have kids, and those are 2 things that you want, then at that point, you want to not waste your time. And I have a video on YouTube that talks about dating with intentionality and not wasting your time. So the first date, or even before that first date, make sure you have those questions answered for yourself as well, and be able to present that information, because you want to find somebody that's going to be in alignment with your needs and wants as well.
And that is such a, I have to say, Chris, this is a frustrating thing for me. I'm a single guy, happily single, but I've seen it so many times. I've had guests on this program who've talked about, who've written about it and gone through it. I have friends who've gone through it. I sometimes I wonder, do you all even talk to each other before? I mean, there's some things you just should know before you say I do. Like you just said, I know people who didn't even have the children conversation before. And I'm like, how did you not discuss that? How did that not even come up? You know, do you think part of it is, Chris, because and I'm saying this based on the personal experience I had with a friend of mine who said,
Mhm.
well, I thought, well, maybe that's something that may change once we got married, that they would feel differently. Do you think that's part of it? Kind of going to another conversation we had, that we try to read their mind and think, well, they're saying this now, but once we get married, they're probably not going to want to, want kids. They're not going to want to do this. Do you think that's part of the issue, that they are assuming instead of finding out, exactly what the partner expects?
That is an important factor. I believe it's several factors. The first factor is when you look at how we communicate now as a society, most people text and email.
Mm,
So the art of talking is becoming lost. The
got
other
you.
factor is that people don't know what to ask, and the workbooks help you figure out what to ask. So a lot of times I'll hear people say they purchase the workbook because they don't know what they don't know. Meaning they're not a therapist, so they may not think in the moment what to ask. So when we consider a person, we're looking at essentially the aesthetics of how they look. Are they employed? How do they
Mm,
make me feel? So it's a
mm,
difference between how someone makes you feel and then the overall logistics of what that relationship is going to transition into. So we get caught up in the emotion, the honeymoon phase, and that can blind the person. If
yeah.
you're enjoying the person's time and their company, and then if you begin to be intimate with that individual, that really then adds another layer of blinders where once you look up, time might have passed and you forgot. So I don't think it's intentional for people to not ask. I think we get caught
Got
up
you.
into the love roller coaster and forget to ask these things, and at that point it's too late.
Yeah, and like you said, not only, I feel like, is it too late, is then you're in a situation where you almost feel stuck, right? I mean,
Right.
and so you end up being in a situation that you're not happy in because you've settled,
Hmm.
and that kind of thing. So totally, that's why this one, I think we're talking about today, finding acceptance, is important. I want to kind of reset for a second and say, for those who are just tuning in, you're watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. We also are broadcasting on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, and as well as Twitter as well. On Twitter, we have Chris, I tagged over there. But today we're talking relationship expert and author Chris A. Matthews about very important topics, and that is, of course, relationships.
Yeah.
And we started off this series talking about so many of these pillars that you give us, Chris, can be talked about in all different types of relationship, but definitely for those that are in intimate relationships like dating and marriage. So I want to go through a couple of things that I really thought were interesting in this one, and that is finding acceptance, how to guarantee your partner feels understood. I'm highlighting it over there on the Amazon Live site. As I mentioned, it is $18.34 there. It's on sale there. And part of what you did in this book, Chris, is you talk about expectations. It's point six
Hmm.
point one, and for those who have the print editions on page 27, so make sure you guys a note of that for when you get your own book. But you say this, Chris: relationship expectations. Prior to establishing a romantic relationship, it is important to know what you expect from yourself, your intimate partner, and the relationship as a whole. Our expectations are birthed from the hopes, beliefs, and desired outcomes that we anticipate manifesting in ourselves, our intimate partner, and our relationship. And then you say this: as a master of yourself, you are expected to identify, communicate, and obtain what you need to live your best life. No one
Hmm.
is responsible for your happiness besides you. So that's a lot, Chris. And we know so many people that don't do that. you know, for one, I've heard people talk about, looking for someone to complete them, which can be
Hmm.
a show all in itself, right? I'm looking for someone to, to make me happy, someone to make me feel good. Why is it important for us to, as you talk about in this relationship expectation, to know us first, to have us kind of together first before we even get to that point?
It's important to have yourself together because, like I said in the workbook, you control you. So you can control your responses, but you can't control another person's actions. So
Mm,
being in a position where you know what you expect, you can get out quickly in the beginning of a relationship if those expectations aren't met.
yeah.
Also, you can teach your partner what you need. When I think about my own marriage, my wife taught me what she needed, and I taught her what I needed, and we came in the middle and we desired to provide that for each other. And I also believe that, unlike math, two negatives don't make a positive. So if you're
Mm.
unfulfilled and you're meeting a person trying to fulfill you, then at that point, that individual is going to get frustrated. So you need to make sure that it's two positives coming together. A relationship should be about acquiring more than what you have without that person. Meaning, you're bringing something to the table, they're bringing something to the table, and you both will develop more than what you had independent of the relationship. It needs to be a supplement, an add-on, not necessarily the all be all. You have to be right with yourself first, and then the relationship is an enhancement. It's not meant to be everything. You're supposed to be everything that you're adding to someone else's everything.
Yeah. And Chris, you also talk about something else that I found, and I guess maybe this has changed somewhat, but we
Mm-hmm.
still hear about this, and that is people automatically think, well, that's the wife's role or that's the husband's role. They're supposed to do that. You really outline in this book the importance of communication, not just expecting that the wife is going to do this or
Mm-hmm.
that when it comes to the house or the kids, or the husband's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the disciplinarian, or whatever. Why are those type of conversations important as we're talking about making sure that our partner feels understood?
So when you look at your family of origin, that's really where you're taught the early stages or training when you think about roles. When you look at a relationship, it should be like two companies merging together, where at that point they're developing their own brand. So
Mm,
I talk about a lot in my therapy. You need to be willing to co-author rules with your partner. And that's a lot of what marriage and family therapists do. We call it second order change approaches. We help clients rewrite and co-author the rules and the regulations of how they're going to govern their relationship. So you want to make sure that you have the tools and the skills to collaborate with your partner. And that might look like traditional gender roles. It may not look like traditional gender roles, but at the end of the day, you two get to make those decisions.
yeah, I think that's it. And I love the fact in the book, and again, for those who are just finding out about the workbooks, we're going to remind you how you can get all of these. What Chris does is give us those declarative statements like that, but also gives us worksheets to be able to look at, to work through, as well as more work that we can actually be able to personalize for ourselves. So again, it goes back to how we began this segment, Chris, and that is about the work. So I wanted you to talk about kind of how you decided on the structure for the workbooks, sharing the information, but then giving them the assignments.
I developed the information similar in parallel to the book. So when you
Hmm.
think about the misunderstandings that couples typically will have, it looks like expectations, it looks like parenting, it looks like decisions on career development, relationship satisfaction. So those are some of the core principles that are discussed in the workbook. I also provide tools around communication. And one of the things I really appreciate about one of the tools is when you think about our dialogue with our partner, we're really quick to tell somebody what we don't want. I don't
Hmm.
like you coming home late. I don't like that you didn't pick your phone up. I don't like that you didn't help tuck the kids in at night. But I like to ask couples, tell your partner what you do like. Speak from the
Hmm.
lens of what you expect them to do, and speak from the lens of validation versus always telling someone what you don't want. But in order to validate what you like, you first have to understand what that is.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Which again, knowing our part and then being able to communicate that. And
Yes.
it sounds like, Chris, what you're saying is, and what I'm hearing is that a lot, which is why I guess a lot of times people end up in counseling, right? Because they're now at the point where they're focusing on the negative. But
Hmm.
but that part about being able to compliment, to be able to talk about those things that are good, it also makes the other person feel worthy, right? And
Hmm.
validated.
It does. And validation is a tool that is used to get more of what you want from your partner. I
Hmm.
describe how a lot of men that I counsel, they want to fix something and then they want to be told that they did a good job, which is validation. And
Mm,
then a lot of the female partners that I counsel, they may say, I want to feel, and then I want my partner to be there to allow me to heal through that feeling process. So I think understanding your person or your partner in terms of their family of origin, their background, what they gravitate to, it doesn't mean you have to change. It means that you know now what to do to respond to them so you're not walking on eggshells. And it's really common in the initial stages of a marriage to feel like you're on eggshells. And that's the growth period. Those first
Yeah.
5 years, you're building that foundation. And the better you can slow down and understand and listen to your partner, the stronger that foundation will be to support a lifetime together with that individual.
Okay, got to stop you right there, Chris. You said the first 5 years.
The first, so yes. Now, the first 5 years is a learning stage. If you think about,
Wow.
once again, the analogy about a skyscraper, you can tell how tall a building is going to be based on how deep that foundation is going to be built. In those
Mm,
5 years, you're learning traits about your partner. You're able to see different sides of them. And don't get me wrong, the 5 years has a lot of amazing joys to it as well. It's not just
sure.
constant work, battle, and struggle. But,
Right.
I joke about with my wife to this day how I didn't know what her expectations were. So those first couple years of marriage, we're learning what to expect. And sometimes your partner might not know because, we met young. We were in our teens when we met, 19, 20. So
Wow.
we didn't know ourselves. We were still kids growing into adulthood as well. So when we fast forward 16 years later, we're now able to identify the changes that we made independently and how we communicated those changes. And that relationship is gonna evolve. And I talk about too, updating your partner. You got to update your partner on how you've changed, because when I first got into my marriage, I was selfish. I wasn't as giving as I am now. So when my wife would mention things, I had to remind her, oh, okay, the old Chris. Yeah, he was selfish. This new Chris makes sure he makes your plate before he eats. The new Chris
Mm,
comes home, takes care of child rearing responsibilities, makes sure that he's calling and checking in on you, because it's not about me. It's transitioning me into we. And that takes a
mm.
couple years to do.
Got you. Got you. And the only reason why I want to highlight that, because I think a lot of times, that's why I think we hear about, especially in the celebrity culture, right?
Mhm.
Marriages after a year, 2 years, if they make it to the year, right? I mean, falling flat, but I love the fact that you talk about that building time, and,
Mhm.
and why that is so important, which is why that decision of getting married, I think is, and that's another thing about me, Chris, I guess going back to how we were raised. I was raised to believe that you don't get married unless you are ready to get married, unless you are ready to commit. You're ready to think about somebody other than just yourself. Well, I haven't gotten there. so, so in my mind, I'm thinking that's why people may say, "Oh, you're going to be a good husband. You're going to be a good father." I'm like, "Well, you just don't know. I'm not there. I'm not there yet. I'm not in that mindset."
Right.
But that's me being honest with me and
Mhm.
knowing,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm good with people. But I think that's the other thing, right? Dr. Velma Backney says absolutely. That is such. Hey, look, you got to know. I know me and my family. My
Mhm.
mother, my mom used to always say, "I can't wait till you give me some grandchildren." Now she tells me, "I'm so glad Cyrus will have these children," because she sees that I'm not ready to commit to anyone other than myself. So,
Mhm.
Chris, what is your hope? This has been a good segment. What is your hope to people, especially those that are just discovering your work, that they realize about the importance of doing the work?
So the work can be fun. I think sometimes when we
Mhm.
hear that word work, it's like a struggle or it's
Yeah, yeah,
mundane. You should enjoy the visualization process of writing out what you want. You should get excited about visualizing how that partner is going to come and fulfill the expectations. And
mhm,
even in the down periods of the relationship, be excited. I always joke about how I'm glad when couples come in and they're arguing because they now learn not to do that same thing next time. So I
yeah,
talk about how the first 5 years is learning a lot about what not to do next time. And
mhm,
that work doesn't need to be daunting. And to your point, Cyrus, getting to know you allows you to then communicate what you've learned about yourself to your partner. And there are a
yeah,
lot of couples that come into counseling and one partner, folded to the peer pressures of just wanting to have kids. I actually have, family members that got married because, like you said, the grandparents wanted, the parent wanted to be a grandparent. And,
mhm,
I think about a family member traveled all over the world, was a bachelor, and he gave up that life to get married, but he then now goes back to traveling all over the world with 3 kids because he didn't probably need to get married, but
yeah,
his mom wanted grandkids. So
Yeah.
you want to be mindful to not be pushed into that. And that's what the workbooks do. They help you slow down. So even if you're not in a relationship, these workbooks are going to be a pillar to learn
Yeah.
about you. So you
Hmm.
don't put yourself in a position. So Cyrus, I applaud you for doing that work and not breaking hearts and putting yourself in a stressful situation that you.
Yeah, look, it's not, it's one of those things too, and that's why I love having a platform like this, Chris, because I'm able to bring on professionals like yourself, but also I have my own learned experience and lived experience to go by. And though I don't try to give people advice, I understand the importance of not letting other people push you in a direction that you're not ready for, right? Or that you're not good for, because it's only going to end in somebody being hurt, right? I mean, and I think that's the whole thing here. That's why I'm so glad we've been able to do this. This one just flew by today, Chris. Again, everyone, relationship expert and author Chris A. Matthews has been our guest. If you guys were coming in late there, I see some of you guys coming in still on the Amazon Live side as well as over there on Facebook and LinkedIn. Chris A. Matthews has been our guest. We've been having this great series with him based on his book you guys see there, Finding Your Relationship Fix, the 4 reasons couples seek counseling. I'm going to highlight it there in the carousel on Amazon. He also has an ebook there. But today we've been kind of focusing on the workbooks. He has workbooks to help you recognize the work. Dr. Velvet says these people are their timelines. I know, Dr. Velvet. That's the thing. But the workbook we talked about today was Finding Acceptance, how to guarantee your partner feels understood. All of them are available through Amazon. If you're on the Amazon Live side, they're down below in the carousel. Click through on them. Feel free to be able to read more information about them. If you guys are joining us on the other platforms, you will notice the link that is there that'll take you over to Amazon.com to be able to get them for yourself. And Chris, how can our audience stay connected with you? Chris, how can our audience stay connected with you?
So the main thing that I'd like to give people is the website relationcounselinggroup.com. If you're local, Relationship Counseling Tools is the IG tag. Relationshipcounseling.tools.com is the website for you to access the books as well. So Relationship Counseling Tools, IG, and relationshipcounseling.tools.com. And then my personal website is chrisamatthews.com.
Awesome. Well, Chris, another great show, man. We'll be wrapping up our series here on Amazon Live next week. Looking forward to seeing you then.
Awesome. Thanks, Cyrus. I appreciate it.
More than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. Appreciate you guys being with us. Again, if you guys are on the Amazon Live side and you missed any of today's broadcast, don't worry. The replay will be available for you guys. If you guys are on one of the other platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or over there that are joining us on YouTube, you can be able to follow the link that is there. It'll take you back over to Amazon to be able to watch the replay and get the books for yourself. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, let's make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.